Hi, I'm Maggie with the Ceramic Shop. In the last video, we went over a bunch of different ways on how to make handles, and today we're going to learn how to attach those handles to mug bodies. The first step in attaching handles to mugs is making sure that your mugs are dry enough to be handled and held, and therefore dry enough for handles to go on them. When you make a mug on the wheel, you're adding a lot of water to that clay generally. So they'll need a little bit more drying time than if you extrude a handle. One way that you can make this timing work really well is make your mug bodies on day one, let them set up overnight, and then when you uncover them the next day, you can let them air dry a little bit, wire them off the bats, let them dry upside down. While those are firming up on the bottom, you can either extrude or pull your handles. Those handles can set up while you're trimming your mugs, and then hopefully they're about the same level of dryness when you're ready to put them all together. It's really important that the handles and the mug bodies are in a similar state of drying when you're going to put them together, because clay actually shrinks quite a lot during this stage when all the water is evaporating from it. If your pot's large enough, you can actually see it shrink inches. The reason that it's really important that the mug body and the handle match in drying stage is if your handle is a lot wetter than the mug body, it still has a lot of shrinking to do, and that tension from the shrinking can cause it to pop off, or it can cause it to separate from the mug body itself. When you're making handles, whether you're extruding them, whether you're pulling them from a block of clay, or pulling the handles in the more traditional way, when they're drying, when they're setting up, it's really nice to either put them on a handle form or some curved surface. You can even allow them to dry something like this. You want to let them dry in a curve similar to the shape that they'll be in on the mug body, because clay holds memory. So if you have all of them dry flat and then you curve them onto the mug as they're drying, they might also have a tendency to want to pull away because they are trying to flatten out. To make slip, it's really easy. You just need to thin down whatever clay body it is that you're using. And it is important to use the same clay body that your mug and your handle are, so that all the shrinkage and drying rates are all the same. A nice easy way to do that is to allow trimming scraps to dry out completely, or any other scraps to be completely bone dry. Once you introduce water to that, they will slake down and just kind of completely dissolve. Gives you a nice, really uniform slip. I did not remember to do that, so I've just added water to some wet clay. It's a little bit chunky, but it'll become more uniform with time. This is a really basic recipe, just water with your clay body, but there are some variations that you can use. So if you want your slip to be a little bit stronger, there are a couple things that you can add to it. You can add just some really basic, cheap toilet paper, nothing that has any added softness or anything like that. But by introducing, you just want to rip it up pretty small, hydrate it in some water. By introducing the paper fibers into the clay, you are adding some strength to it. It's sort of like adding little barbells, or it's sort of like adding rebar, not barbells. Another thing that you can add to your slip is vinegar. You would do this, just a little goes a long way, kind of same with the toilet paper. The vinegar actually is a flocculant, so it makes the clay particles stick together, and it makes the actual slip itself appear and act a little bit stickier. Either three of these slip options are great. It's just personal preference. You can also go even simpler than that when you're attaching. You can just use plain old water. You can use just vinegar. You can use a vinegar water combo, or you can use what is called magic water. Magic water has a little bit of sodium silicate in it, and it also has a little bit of soda ash. The recipe is definitely out there anywhere you look for it. This helps the clay just bind a little bit better together. The sodium silicate helps the two pieces adhere, and the soda ash allows that to penetrate a little bit deeper into the clay. So in addition to slip, you may have heard the term score and slip, scratch and slip, scratch, scratch, water, attach. All of these are really good, just rhyming things to help you remember the two main actions that you need to do to properly adhere two pieces of clay together. So if you don't do any scratching or scoring when you attach two pieces of clay, you're just kind of pushing them together and hoping that the clay is wet enough that they really bond. Because there's nothing really attaching them, it is pretty easy for the clay to pop off, whether that's a handle, whether it's a joint in a slab built project, something like that. When you scratch the surface of the clay, score it, and you do that to both sides, and then using slip or water, whatever your choice, when you attach those two pieces together, it's sort of like Velcro. You're really intertwining those two pieces of clay and then hoping that they join together. And then even if you pull, you're creating a much stronger bond. And then when you add slip or you're adding water, you're kind of filling in any of those empty holes that are there in the Velcro and the scratching and slipping. So the strongest bond is going to be scratching both sides, adding some additional glue type substance. So water, which when you squish the two together, it's kind of creating a slip in that action. Slip, vinegar, magic water, any of those things. That is how you're going to create the strongest bond. And again, you do want those two pieces of clay to be at a really similar stage in the drying process. Leather hard generally is the best time to work with this. When you hear scoring and slipping, the first tool that might come to mind for scoring or scratching is a needle tool. But there's actually a lot of tools out on the market that are going to make this task significantly easier. For one, if you have people who are new to clay, with the needle tool, you have a tendency to cut too far into the clay and you can actually cut through the piece. So we want to avoid that. And for another reason, this is only going to make one mark at a time, where with any of these tools, you're going to make more marks at a time, and it's just going to be faster and more even scoring and slipping throughout the piece. You want to dry fit the handle to the mug to see if the shape is how you like it and the size, see if you need to make any adjustments. This one needs to be cut just a little bit. And I think that'll look pretty good. So you can make marks for the approximate place that you're going to put the handle. And then you're going to score the body where that handle is going to go. And you're going to score the handle. And then we're just going to add a little bit of slip. You don't want to add too much slip, otherwise it'll become a little bit messy. You're going to add a little bit of the slip and then place the handle. Make sure that everything is at the right angle. I like to wiggle it back and forth or up and down a little bit. This really helps when you've scratched and slipped both sides. As you're wiggling, it helps work those pieces in together nice and strong. I like to wait a minute or two to start cleaning up the attachment point, since that slip is pretty wet still. If you work with it, it's just going to get a little bit messy. So I'll let that set up, and then I'll come back to it in a minute or two and clean up the edges or the attachment points. When you're attaching handles to mugs, the rim of the mug is generally going to dry faster than the base because we've got more clay down here. It retains water for a longer period of time. So it is pretty nice to keep a spray bottle on deck and have it at a nice mist setting so you can spray down the rims, and that way you can have more even drying throughout the whole process. It's always nice to look at the mug from the rim, see if there is any spot in particular that you want the handle to be. And once you've made that choice, you're just going to once again score the area And then you're going to score the handle attachment. This time I'm only going to score the top, and then I'm going to cut the handle off when I know exactly how long I want it to be. I'm going to use the paper slip for this one. And then I'm going to attach that. Wiggle that into place. And then that's too long, isn't it? Oop. I'm going to score the bottom. Add a little bit of slip. You can avoid adding too much slip by adding it to the handle that's going to be attached rather than the mug, because you know exactly how much you need on the handle. Wiggle it back and forth. And then you've got maybe too big of a handle. This actually looks pretty bad. Second go. Make sure that is perpendicular to the mug. And then I'll just let that set up for a minute or two. Squish this down to get a better spacing underneath. New tool, who dis? Alright. And then for this one, we are going to use the slip with vinegar in it. Oops, I scratched and slipped in the wrong spot. Don't tell anyone. Does it look okay? Yeah. Okay.
I like that one, that scoring tool.
This one?
It's the most prominent, like, scoring one that I've seen.
Yeah. It's also like
Super cheap.
so cheap. Yeah. It's a classic. I think everyone has one.
Cute.
Yeah. What handle should go on here? This is basically a bowl, so something big, chunky. I could do. Did you say broth?
Broth. Do you drink bone broth?
Broth is the best food that's ever been created.
I know you love your soup.
You want to try and avoid scratching and slipping too large of an area on the body of the mug, because anything that's not covered by the handle will need to be smoothed out afterwards. Not too big of a task, but task you don't necessarily have to do. I think that might be it. We'll go scratch in here. This one's pretty nice. Oh, scratch in here, and then we are using, whoops, magical water. One thing to note when you are using vinegar and magic water, anything that has additives to it, the vinegar is like an acid, sodium silicate is a salt-based deflocculant, that I would keep brushes that are used in those products away from anything else. Sometimes if you get those contaminants in like a wax, it can adversely affect how the wax performs in the bottle or on the brush. After you've allowed your handle to set up and the slip to dry out a little bit, you can go back with whatever tool that makes the most sense for you and smooth out any rough patches. If you have some scoring and slipping marks, you just want to smooth those out. Nice finishing details. If you feel like the attachment point isn't quite thick enough, you can make some small scoring and slipping and add a nice fine coil of clay. This will just help bulk that connection point up a little bit, and you can use something nice and small and smooth to attach that on. Whatever tool works best for you. Sponge off some excess, make sure it's nice and smooth. Smooth out all your score and slip marks, any extra like beads of clay or beads of slip rather. Yeah. And we've got a nice secure handle, and you want to make sure that you do not pick up the mug by the handle until it is out of the bisque kiln, because even though this is a nice strong attachment, it is still the weakest that it will be until it is out of the bisque kiln.